Hey, well, welcome to the Dream Labs, Dr. Contrast Live. Sorry for the slight delay in getting started here today. I just want to tune in some things and had to take care of a couple things in the office here, but I thought we'd have a little bit of fun today and notice the subject matter is a bit of a different change of pace. It's the Starship concept for the Mokarron, which is the biological name for hammerhead shark, which I thought was kind of neat. And the reason I'm going this route, I want to just give you a quick overview here. Is because this coming weekend on Saturday, we're doing a show in the city of Columbus called for Equinox. It's a big presentation put on by my wingman, Michael Tees of IP Forge, and we do a little bit of a special little presentation down there this coming Saturday, and looking for maybe a new concept for a interdictory fighter of some sort, or a concept, a sketch for a aircraft study for Starship. So this is where we started, and I thought I'd just give you a bit of a heads up on that. What I wanted to do here today was just kind of introduce what the whole concept is, go through a variety of sketches, and show you what the development might look like. And I thought it'd be really neat to start with, for example, in a case like this, just a real loose. I started here with some real loose little sketches on elevations and some front elevations of the hammerhead shark. Interesting that it has a very unique set of circumstances in deep sea water. For example, that large paddle up front, for example, this guy, I didn't realize when I was doing a little research, they use that as almost like a weapon of some sort, where they trap clamshells or certain fish underneath that large platform area and devour it, because their mouth is underneath this area here. So they can just kind of crush it, go back and look at it here, and use it as a feeding system or a hunting system. But what I wanted to look at was just a basic overall gesture, very fish-like, very fluid, and I looked up the biological species name of the hammerhead. I thought it was interesting. There's a lot of variety, but the one that caught me the most was the Mokarron, which is part of their genus of the species. So we're going to call this thing a concept study for the Mokarron, and I'll walk you through some things here. Again, I wanted to look at something that was biomimicry related, and then we develop into a starship or a star citizen kind of a future fighter. So you'd be very surprised. I took some of the elements of the hammerhead and moved them around a little bit to kind of create a whole new look. I didn't want to get into a big flat platform up front with an aircraft or a canopy on it of some sort in a fighting system or arsenal of sorts. Something really unique and different. So I split that up a little bit as I go here, as I go down the line. So this is where I started. I'll come back to this as a reference from time to time. So notice there's a basic elevation, very slow, very sections, very round, almost tubular body form in a sense. And this flattens out here with a very large platform up front where the eyes are located on the outboard ends of this thing. So that's basically the elevation. Then the front elevation was almost the same, very round in nature. And then it comes out to this very large flare up front where the eyeballs are, the eyes are on the outboard end of that large paddle up front. Again, a little section study here. Then I took that basic overall gesture, and you notice here's the basic body contour I started to work with. I just took that same basic overall shape, this to this, and then that to that, and then needle nosed it, and then played this up a little bit with a little bit of a tail section. I'd call this a rear, for example. You'll see as we go down the line here. This would be the rear of the aircraft or the actual concept sketches. Now we'll start to put some wing structure, body form around it, keeping it very fluid, try to pick up the same basic overall section that's in the actual hammerhead itself or the Mokarron, but then give it a whole new identity. So I want to get into a really super slick, streamlined form. It might be a drone of some sort, unmanned. I don't know yet. I really haven't made up my mind yet. I just, as I said today, want to introduce a program and begin to develop this maybe over the next couple of weeks, because once we go into the show on Saturday, I'm going to take some field information from the people at the show itself and show them some of the development here and have them put some input into it, and then little by little maybe develop a really nice finished illustration to go out there on my website for purchase. So, and for the audience down in, at the Equinox program too this coming Saturday. So this is where we are. This is where I started. So this is phase one. I'm going to leave that right there because I'm going to need it. This is the little pencil sketches that I started to generate very quickly, little thumbnail sketches. Again, notice I took that same hammerhead. Let's go back to this for a moment here. I took that same hammerhead location up front with that very flat plan view in the plan view of the actual fish itself. And I said, you know what? Maybe we take that and just distort it. Maybe come with a nice little crescent, some sort of or a wing vector or split V. And then a lot of the body form. Notice the body form is pretty consistent all the way through, adding a large rudder or tail like the fin has in the actual. Hey. Deco is now following. Hey, they have me on board, man. How are you? Where are you coming from? Deco, yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time to come on board here. So carrying on here, the whole biomimicry thing was to me intriguing. So we took a very unique species, which is the hammerhead, and converted it into these sketches. So I started here. Notice the body form. I'll go back to this guy just for a moment. I want to pay attention to this. Is very critical. Down through the line here. This body form stayed pretty consistent all the way through, but the real trick was, the real essence of the concept was to get a really neat looking platform of the actual aircraft itself, or the fighter, to make it look a little bit more distinctive and have some of that hammerhead characteristic to it. So there we are. This is the first pass at it. Now, the neat thing about this is, the reason for that split wing or that hammerhead, notice I took the shape and kind of V'd it a little bit as opposed to being flat. Hey, Wales, oh my goodness, unbelievable. Wales in Europe or Wales here? That's amazing. Thank you so much for joining. That's terrific. Welcome aboard. I hope you enjoy the presentation. It's so grateful to have you on board. Now, I'm from Scotland. Are you from Wales? I was born in Glasgow, Scotland. That's amazing. Thank you so much. But again, notice, let's go back to the sketcher for a moment. That's a great distraction. Good evening from Wales. Wow, unbelievable. Thank you. So I kept a pretty pure body form in terms of that basic contour. Notice, there it is right there. And let me show you a little bit of an overlay if I can get the two together here. Notice how that contour stayed pretty consistent. There's the actual form itself that I brought back into the body form here. But I thought, there's something unique about this that I really wanted to really develop further, and that was to get some sort of a platform that really made a huge distinctive difference. And what I'm looking at here, and again, you can correct me or else criticize, that's great, that's what we're here for, to look at yays and nays. These pods on the end, instead of having a pilot up front, these pods are pilot, co-pilot, so they're separate modules. In the UK, I'm excited to hear what you have. Oh, me too. I'm excited to have you on board. I'm very, very fortunate to have you on board. So thank you so much for taking the time. Being a Glaswegian, I know it's about 8 p.m. there in the UK. So thank you so much for taking the time. I'll make this worthwhile for you, believe me. So here again, but I thought it'd be kind of neat to get away from the actual cockpit, center line on the machine. But to split them up a little bit and get a little more diversity in some of the platforms. And you'll see as I go here how this will really begin to really follow through, for example. So once again, same body shape, adding a little bit more of a delta or a reverse wing out front, kind of spread the form out a little bit of the hammerhead, still playing with not playing with, but really paying attention to the hammerhead concept, but bending it a little bit to give more newness to it. And again, these pods on the outboard end, I'm not quite sure yet if that's going to be functional yet. I've got to do a little more investigating how that's going to function. But I just thought it would be really cool to have this pilot, co-pilot on the extremities for visual surfaces and for introduction process. So that's where I started. There's number one. I'm going to go down the line here very quickly. There's sketch one. Then I went back to another variation. The same thing again. Notice there's a little thumbnail sketch of the actual hammerhead itself here. But again, notice a little more deliberate in terms of putting these sketches together here. So this is a little bit more. That one was pretty timid. This one's a little bit open. So the same basic concept. Looking at those side pods again, these winglets where the pilot, co-pilot would kind of nest in. So there's sketch number two. Then I went to a plan view, and I think this started to tell a story. All of a sudden, that's what I'm getting at. Something that's really unique in terms of, well, you don't see that very often when you get the basic body form through the center of the core. Then you begin to shovel in, for example, this little perspective, a little change here of getting these side pods out there, or pilot, co-pilot, or whatever it might be. It could be a drone as well. Again, I'm keeping that wide open. I'm just looking for some really unique shapes and surfaces to work with here. But I was really intrigued with this, and it might be something very wise for me to look at as we develop this shape and this concept to go a little bit further, maybe a little more guts in the middle here. I don't know how you feel about that, Deco Didivry. Is that how you pronounce it? I'm sorry. But what's your opinion thus far? If you're still on board here, I'd like to get your input on, I'm looking for something that's radically new, but at the same time functional. We'll have to investigate a little bit more. Maybe it's a little bit too gossamer yet. Maybe a little bit more girth in here to support those outriggers, or those modules for the personnel to kind of embody into. But I just thought there was something unique about that, and I think the shape is starting to take some development. I'll show you some sketches later on some development down the line about what we took into that from this basic plan view sketch. So that was the third study we did. Again, the unique plan view, and again, a little bit of perspective, changing the view a little bit. Notice this kind of flattens out a little bit here in terms of the perspective. So I turned it a little bit to kind of see what that whole process is going to look like when you have to turn the shape itself. Do we want to open those wings up a little bit? Do we want to tighten them down? I don't know if I want to tighten them down. I think that takes it away from being that very strong hammerhead variation on theme. And when you look at this, that hammerhead is right in here, but I just kind of chunked out let's save some space and really develop the form a little bit further. So third sketch in. Now we're back into some little thumbnail sketches here. Very quickly looking at just some elevations here. Elevations, we're getting the intake and the exhaust. High rudder, again, a little bit of scoop over the top, same cockpit studies. Little front elevation, what that might look like, variation of the theme here. Hey, Victoria, good to have you on board, my man. How are you? Thank you so much for joining us here. Yeah, it's an interesting story, Victor. I think, again, the whole idea was to start for the Equinox program on Saturday, looking at something that's really unique in terms of interplanetary attack systems and so forth. Just ivory is fine. Haha. More girth would work. I am an art student, but have a very little experience with these types of drawings. I like how the ship feels like a Predator through that. Yeah, that's a nice point there, Teco. That's a good deal. It has to be aggressive looking. Maybe it's a bit too slippery yet, but a little more evil. We'll make that as we go. The doors off. These. I don't know if I'll blow the doors off. Maybe it just might knock me out of the room, Victor. I'm not sure. But Deco, that's a great comment, Deco. I really appreciate that about the fact that the ship feels like a Predator. That's what I wanted to get across, because the hammerhead is a Predator, very, very vicious fish type. But again, I really thought it was really kind of neat to have this whole thing come back in and do some neat stuff in terms of giving it a whole new Mokarron. That's its biological name. So a little elevation study here, a little bit side view, but let me move along here. A lot to cover here. Again, this stream today will be dedicated strictly to introducing the theme. And then we're going to develop that theme as we go through Saturday, and then maybe next week on my stream, I'll start to develop a little more guttiness and get some color with it. So if you stay with me, Deco, it'll be worth your while. Thank you. So here we are, this is fourth study. Then we kind of switch gears and let's look at this guy a little bit. Now I wanted a perspective again. Try to get something a little bit more tightened up a little bit, but same basic concept. But I mean, this thing started to zoom a little bit. I mean, this one started to feel pretty good. I'm not quite sure about the layering here. This actually graphs underneath the intake of the engines itself. As we saw, the elevation changed a little bit, but then I just thought this. I really wanted to honor that same overall body form. For example, as we go through the line here with that with the Mako contour, the first sketch I showed you, still running really work with this form right here. But just reversing it, where this is front, we're now saying that the same basic concept that now becomes rear. It's the same basic shape. This is front of vehicle here. Again, really sheer looking. So I think that's what I'm getting at here, Deco, that whole sheerness of being very crisp, architectural, gutty looking, mean, vicious. That's the concept we're after here. This one started to take on a real presence, I thought. So, but the perspective was interesting too. Notice very, very soft and voluptuous and evil where it needs to be, where the guts are. So what do you think, gang? So far, so good? Making sense? This is really helpful to have your voice and your opinion here. But I'm really honor bound to see if we can make this whole concept of split control systems, the pilot, co-pilot on the outrigger. I think that could really be unique. And now, how do we load that? I don't know. We'll work about that. We'll work about that a little bit later on. So here's sketch number 5. We'll go down the line here. I kept going with the same basic theme. And then now to number 6, change of view again. And this was interesting. Now, all of a sudden, coming up on top of this thing and really doing a really neat job of, again, keeping that same basic form through the middle. What's missing in the sketch is a very large dorsal fin of the tail itself, but it has a lot of character to it. I think this is just to open it up. Notice very planform comes out and drops, and then the wing bridge into these pilot, co-pilot command units could be kind of interesting. So let me stop there for a minute. Nice lines. It's a precursor to the Mustang. Yeah. That's precursor. That's pretty good, Victoria. Neat. So what do you think, gang, so far? Are we moving this in the right direction, do you think? Or are we just getting a bit too secure? I don't want to be secure. I want to really make a comment with this biomimicry process of getting this thing really begin to function and have a really great story to tell in terms of developing the actual sketch itself. So again, back to the basic theme, just a little bit more girth in the body form here with the intakes and the engine system coming through. Pull up and pick up the consequence of the Outland Mustang. Oh yeah, that's interesting. Thank you, Outland Mustang. Okay, I will do that. Hope we haven't kind of plagiarized. So I'm not aware of that. Are we pretty close, Victoria? Or are we safe? Don't want to violate that law. Anyhow, here we are, gangs. But just a very interesting. I don't want to sound opinionated, but feels a little secure at this stage. I really like those vents on the previous sketch. Why? Oh, yeah. So you went to this one here, Deco, this guy here, where you actually come back and really open this up a little bit, some venting up on top. Is that what you're after? Don't want to be, no, you're not opinionated at all. I just appreciate the input at all. That's why we put these programs on. I developed some things. Yeah, for me, I think that's got some character to it. It kind of lightens it up a little bit too, so it takes some of the girth out of it, but not bad at all. Just get some of those detailing in there. I think you're right. This was moved again. I went to more guts in this, put more body surface to it to kind of see what it would look like, the balance, but it has too much weight to it. I think the thinness in here, if I eliminate this intake piece, go back to that slim piece up on top and vent it, that you're talking about, Deco, could be really interesting. And so you're safe. You haven't prejudiced, just like a distant cousin. They might have stolen their design. Yeah, you know, that's a good idea. We can kind of look into that, Victor. We should let them know. That's ours. So but once they see ours, they'll be jealous. So here we are, sketch number 6. And again, Deco, great comment about this weight here. And it's shifting. The minute I did that, it's too much mass. I'm a lot more comfortable in almost every theme thus far. Even some of the earlier sketches was real little thin gossamer. In fact, to me, the shield, almost the shingle overlap of this form up on top of the surface itself. I didn't describe it in this sketch here, but this has an interesting feel to it, because what happens here, that shear comes off the engine nacelle, comes up, drops down again, and there's an intake in through here and an intake up on top. So it's got a little more evilness to it. So I think we're getting closer to that too, Victor. Neat stuff. So there we are. Let's go back. I covered that one already. Pardon me. 5. Let's go back in again. There's the 6. We've already looked at that guy. And then went back into some thumbnail studies again and just thought, what about this? What if we took that same basic shape and started looking more disc-like and more, so it's actually the pilots and co-pilot would rotate inside that nacelle here. Now, I'm really back to what Deco was saying earlier. This is really a bit too, sketch 5 is sleek and shard. Feels like it could run on a dime. Yeah, sketch 5 I think is really, that's to me, that's got some character to it, I think, shard. I'm going to put that one aside right there. That's it. Are you referring to, Deco, to this elevation study? And in addition to the perspective study up on top you mentioned earlier? You sharp. You the link. There it is. So I think that's got some character to it. Now maybe we stretch this. This one, I think we stretch a bit more. What do you think about that? If we keep the same overall character, but we stretch the monocoque, the actual body forms. A little bit stubby now. I'd like to see this go a little longer and open this up a little bit more, but maintain the same character. So I understand you said earlier you're a design student. What are you studying over in the UK? Are you in industrial design or illustration, or what's your format here at Deco? I really appreciate. I'm really thrilled to have you on board. What a joy! Somebody from Wales. That's cool. So that's number 5. Let's keep that one out. Let's go back to number 6 here. Oops, stack this up. Pardon me, lost it. Yep, there it is. Oh, it's all over here. So again, I think you're right. The weights here but I think some of this, again, the mass in here is the same thing. It's on your Chester. In the fine arts, I'll be heading to Chester. Oh, that's outstanding. Well, congratulations to you. I hope you stay in touch, and I wish you all the very best. And if I can be of any help to you from a drawing point of view, wonderful. I mean, I've got a digital drawing program out in the marketplace now, so I'll end my stream. I'll bring up to speed on wherever that is, Deco. Congratulations. I think that's good for you. I'm sure you have a great career in front of you, and if I can be of any help to you, I'm here. So I'm almost stream every Wednesday at the same time. I'm a little late today because of some office stuff I had to take care of. But back to business here. So I spend a lot of time, honestly, folks, this is going to sound like a trite comment to me. I spend a lot of time really thinking about surface work and developing shape. What's the overall character? What do we want to develop here? Is it sheerness? Is it voluptuous? Is it luxury? Is it elegance? I'm really not sure, but I'd love to at least keep up with this project here. We're going to keep up with this project. We're going to keep after this before the next 2 or 3 streams. In Deco. So sketch number 6 out of the system, up and down. Sometimes you hit one, sometimes you miss them, but a little details here and there might come into play and really do some neat stuff. Last but not least, number 7. And I'll move on to some other things here. So it was pretty interesting how that all came together. Now notice this one is interesting because, again, I'm still not happy with the girth in it. There's something about the weight. I need to get that thing compressed a little bit more so it's a little slimmer. And I also think it needs to be stretched. But the outriggers here, going back to what you were saying with number 5 here, I think we're going to start taking some of these combinations here. Deco, that combination of wing surface, maybe open this up a little bit more. that give this the kind of character. But again, the weight, if I take some of that out of that, if I take some of the weight out of that thing by doing this, for example, I took that weight out of that body form, that's got a little more thinness to it. I think it'll give it some guts. At the same time, stretch that form out so it really kind of elaborates that, because I think a hammerhead is anywhere from 8 to 12 feet in length, something that was fully grown. So that's a big machine. So I see this thing as being a very massive interdiction escort fighter of some sort. So it'd be kind of neat. So this is number 7. And again, notice I thought, now this is more like, look at the weight right here in that body form. If I were to cover this up again, there's the actual mass of the form right there. So it really kind of slims it up. This had that same character again, Deco, that you liked with the venting. That piece there became that piece there. It didn't have the vents. But there's something about the weight of this one, I think, that really looks kind of sleek and hammer-like and Mokarron. It just has that character to it. So I think we're in good shape there. This one is kind of a little bit, I'm leaning toward that overall weight, the balance of maybe that double dip here is not too slick. Maybe this is all one consistent surface. And we take that offset up front. And then this is that little cockpit area. I'm going to have to bubble that up a little bit to get more mass. I'm really not sure how that's going to function. So I'm going to be very, very candid and transparent here. Maybe it's more of a vertical pod like we're seeing in this one, like Deco. Like maybe it's more of that look instead of a round. And there's something about that might be a little clumsy. By the time you get an occupant in there, it could be actually about a 5-foot globe of some sort. And that's not very healthy. Whereas this could be real slim, much more interdictive looking, and far more evil. So it's almost like a kilopin coming out and grabbing the enemy of some sort. So there we are, and there's number 7. I went back to just a very, very quick last study here, very quick elevations on this thing. Here's another study here. Again, just looking at weights, different contours, and again, notice a little slimmer through here. Got back that to it again. Same thing, venting up on top. Pretty evil. So far, so good, gang. There she is, sketch number 8. And that's the last study I did. Just kind of give it the same overall look here. So very interesting generation from start to finish. Let me go back to where I started here. This is where it all began, this whole biome. Let me see if I can put these guys side by side. Just a little bit, just a touch here. No, not going to work. So, but the whole biomimicry thing to me was really intriguing. Going back to that basic hammerhead. I love these side profiles you have done. Yeah, the profiles are, I think that's a good point too, Deco. The reason I always start with that, if you look at the most difficult thing to do from my perspective in industrial design, I spent all my career at General Motors design staff. I was chief designer for Corvette, Cadillac, and a lot of systems with Europe at Opel for a year. Was director of design over at Opel. Really fortunate to do a lot of neat stuff as an automobile designer, and I just kind of brought that back in. I did a lot of architectural work, a lot of interior space work, product design, in my company here called Formations in Columbus, Ohio. But the profiles, to me, I learned early in my career from some great instructors, for example, at CCS, Center for Creative Studies in Detroit, that the most difficult thing to do is a really good, wholesome side elevation, because that will tell you a story. When you see a side elevation like that, and from my point of view, when I do a side study like this, or any one of these sketches, let's go back to the one you liked here. Any one of these elevations, let's use this guy as a great example. That elevation, right away, a good elevation will tell me, well, I've been very fortunate, Deco, believe me, I've done some neat stuff. I work with Ferrari, Maserati, Lamborghini, Rolls-Royce. I've been all over the place. I was in Europe. I've really a lot of design experience over the course of time, but I'm now into teaching mode. I'm doing a lot of Twitch systems. Still doing consulting work for a variety of clients here across the country and overseas. Very fortunate, but I love going on Twitch because I'm helping people like yourself, and you're helping me. I've got a great design program I want to introduce you to at the end of the program here. We'll get you tuned in and hope you stay on tune here. But again, notice what to me, back to this elevation thing, your comment about side profiles look good. That tells a story. Once you see an elevation, automatically, I'm thinking about the third dimension, what the surfaces are doing, what kind of interfaces we're getting, where are the counterpoints, what are the sharps and contrasts doing. It's almost like putting together a piece of music. There's a rhythm to it. And if you get a great profile or a great elevation, all of a sudden everything falls into place. So I'm a firm believer, if you get a good solid profile down and you move into perspective, this helps you understand that, and that begins to generate this even further. So they all work together, and I think as you go to the university at Chichester, I hope you really look into the fact that take a lot of time doing some really pensive work on elevation sketches, and then think in the third dimension, because that's what they intend to do. It's a soldier study in a sense, and they call it a soldier study because in the very beginning of some of the development of the automobile design industry, they just soldiered on with this as a soldier. They fought the battle, fought the battle, fought the battle. So it became a soldier studies in terms of sketch rendering skills. So let's move along here, folks. I want to bore you to death here. Now, this is a fun part here. I got to I'm going to leave that vibe out here. And put that aside. Let me just, for a moment, let me switch gears. Now, this is the fun part. From this generation, I went back and said, you know what? This would be kind of cool to see what happens here. Let me do this. I'm going to bring this up to speed here, guys. Hold on a moment. Get this guy out. We'll take it a little further down the line here with this thing. Now, I've been in the sketchbook here. Look at my gallery. And I went ahead and some time ago, I just went ahead and really did some further exploration digitally. So this is a fascination for me in a sense, because what I did, let me start here. I went back in, as we drop these down a little bit. So can you see that all right? There we go. Oh, got that light in the way here. Let's move this over. So yeah, that's better. That should stay pretty clear. Here we go. Back in again, after I finished that first set of pencil sketches, what I did, I went back into my iPad and just did some really quick, fast ballpoint pen sketches and a little bit of airbrush, put a more surface into it. But I started further down the genealogy about, okay, it's a hammerhead, it's a Mokarron. It has a genus about it, it has a character about it. Maybe there's more bulk, maybe we need to stretch it. Maybe there's an actual cockpit instead of outriggers and so forth. Oh, let me bring that back down scale. There we are. Okay. There we go. So let me walk you down the line here with these things, and we'll see what happens here. So I started here. After I finished this last sketch, number 8, went back in and said, you know, it'd be kind of worthwhile, maybe just a touch, to go back in and take advantage of maybe it's too soft. Maybe we'll go back and get a little bit more stealth-like with it. So let's go down the line here. Let me just pass these through. And as we go down the line here, folks, please help me out. Yays and nays. And again, these are real fast, maybe 5-10 minute sketches per page or per plate using an iPad. So let's go down the line here. Let's go down the line. There she is, front elevation, and side view again. A little bit more girth. I mean, I'm not quite sure that the weights are there yet, but I mean, as we go through this, I'm beginning to see too much, too little, too organic, too sheer here. It's got to be a lot rounder, I think, as we go on the line here. So let's go back down the line again. And again, no, this is a really odd proportion back here. There are times, Deco, you find out as you go through the process, I'm sure you find as well, Victoria, sometimes you go through the process and, good God, how in the world did I create that thing? But, you know, that's good because it gets it out of your system and you don't repeat the same mistake. So you look at certain things down the line here, what to add, what to delete, and what to move into the concept. And again, I'm really honor bound to get this whole biomimicry piece to really kind of sing clearly with this whole split wing system. How do we develop that, and where the occupant's going to be? I totally know what you mean. Yeah, it's incredible. It just really is amazing how it works. Let's go. That's down the line here. I'm back on some elevations again. Just some really quick little thumbnail sketches, getting a lot sharper, a little sheer. Some of these broken, for example, these broken faceted planes. It's a lot more stealth-like. So maybe that's a combination we're looking for. The stealth combination in the wing surface and the very soft organic form of the body form of the hammerhead shark itself, or the Mokarron, which is its genesis name. So there we are. There's sketch number 2. Let's go down the line here again. Back to plan view. Now maybe it's more conventional like this. I really spread the gamut. Was it a split window? Was it split wing? Was it basically all set up in one area or the other? The very simple dart-like plan forms, and are getting into a lot of breakage. For example, these wings can move and articulate, but there's still something missing about it. I think I moved away a little bit from that whole idea of having that hammerhead concept up front and then splitting it into those two outriggers for canopy systems and so forth. Hey, Victoria, if you're still there, what do you think? So far, so good. Then Deco, feel free to fire away here as we go through these sketches. Great input, and I really thank you for the time spent, guys. This is great. I was a little concerned today about being so abstract and the actual biomimicry concept stuff that might be a little bit removed, but I really appreciate your time and effort here to kind of chime in and help me through the process, because believe me, that conversation means an awful lot in terms of putting things together here. So again, back to more conventional weapon system, much more of a contemporary fighter, a little more stealth-like. Let's go back to another one here. Now back to plan view. That was interesting. Maybe a little bit too soft. I don't care for almost the equal weight of the wings here, but maybe if we reverse that and go the other way, there might be something to that. that has a possibility. So down the line here, very much more organic, a lot rounder. I don't know if it has the same feel that the Mako has, or the Hammerhead has, but again, exploring what if, and then to me, to me, it's a real uniqueness about getting the design. It's the unknown. Until you take those chances, until you begin to make mistakes, so to speak. And let me say something to you as well, Deco, that really hopefully will be helpful to you. I fully encourage you to make mistakes, because that's where the miracles live. I mean, I went through the design process working with Ferrari and other individuals, Cadillac and Corvette, the new C8 on the road as it came out of my studios. What I've found in that whole process was really unique in terms of when you make a mistake, that's where the miracles are. For example, Ferrari, that famous Maranello line, that was a reversal from the initial Cobra GT. So we turned it around, and all of a sudden it became the Testarossa. I mean, just interesting things like that. Those mistakes become absolute miracles. So don't be afraid to make mistakes. Use them as a springboard to strengthen your portfolio, and so on. So there's another little plan view study here. Let's go down the line here. Another one. I mean, I'm starting to move a little bit more. This has more of a bat-like feel to it. I mean, it maybe has a little bit more of that same organic form, that little shape up front that is almost hammerhead-like, and looking at it from that point of view. But again, I think this has a lot more personality, that has a combination of being sheer in some areas and very organic in others. And again, very biomimicry related to this, back to this hammerhead. Maybe if we turn this thing around, that's interesting too. If we turn this thing upside down, look at the conventional sketch a few slides ago, made me think, what if we split design with the pilots and retractable wings? Maybe like that. Yeah, that's exactly right. Tomcat type. Well said. That would be really interesting to get those. Again, the whole idea behind that split wing was to have those wings move. Absolutely correct, Deco. At the conventional sketch a few slides ago made me think a split design with the co-pilots had retractable wings, maybe like that. That could be cool too. So they're out there in the outrigger, as I might say, in the outriggers that actually move, they can adjust as you go through from certain variations of speed or attack modes. That's an interesting concept. This is why we have conversations on Twitch. This is great help. So, but I thought this was interesting in terms of maybe the overall character had a lot more stealth to it, a little crisper looking, much more linear. So maybe in a combination of just upfront, very soft and organic where we need to be, back to that body form of the hammerhead or the Mokarron. That's our call sign, the Mokarron 1 or A, I don't know. Anyway, let's move along here. Next sketch. Back to some basic elevations and plan view settings again. Just maybe it's a little more lean. Notice all of a sudden it gets a little crisper, but again, it's another variation of the theme. This would actually begin to pivot and move. That thing moves, and that whole thing could be a stabilizer of some sort. Again, conventional cockpit, a little bit of a split fork up front to kind of show you what those themes are doing and what they look like. But again, I'm just moving back and forth. As I said in the beginning of the stream too, this is not a finalization day. This is a day to introduce what the whole concept is. And what the concept is to find something that has a little more drama, like a Star Citizen or a concept that would be an introductory fighter or an escort fighter that has a different format to it in terms of pilot co-pack or delivery or module systems for occupation. So that's going to be part of the process as well. So here we go. Let's move along here as we go down the line here. Next study. This started to open up a little bit. That was kind of interesting. I'm not quite sure about the bulbousness of this guy right here. I mean, that's got to be slimmed up a little bit. But I thought that plan view had some interest to it, where it actually opened up the arc itself. And again, if we put these guys on the upward side, maybe these wings move up and down. They could pivot, for example, on about maybe a 60-degree angle. So if you've got a fixed wing, and all of a sudden it begins to pivot up and down, that could be interesting, Deco. So thanks for the input. That's something I'm going to factor into the actual design sketch itself. So, Victor, what do you think? So far, so good. Are we there? Are we getting close? I'm having fun. I'm having fun with this thing. This has been a very intriguing process because it causes you to think in terms of what's it doing out there in the aquatic world? How's it going to work in the aircraft world? How do we begin to build that bridge and give it that same character? So here we go. That's interesting. Again, exploring plan views, elevations, surface work, and details yet to come. If we find something that all of a sudden nestles in, I will have no difficulty whatsoever putting a lot of balance and really interesting detail back when I get the program to work. So let's move along here again. Back to some elevation studies. These started to look interesting, where they're very, very clean looking. This was almost minus the vents here, Deco. This starts to pick up some of the same character you like. And I think this weight here looks much healthier for a module system in the plan view when I open that up and move it into that same concept that we did, for example, if we look at this shape, was the one you liked. Right in front of me here. if you like this form, for example, that podule system here could work very nicely. Notice what I did here too with this sketch. I brought that body form straight up out of the intake and create a chute, like a ram chute over the top of that. So that is an integrated piece. It captures the more bulbous part of the body behind. Yeah, I think you're right. Do you like this one here? Is that the one you're referring to? That to me had some real zing to it. That was neat. And again, we could pick up that same wing structure and then the outrigger. This in the plan view would look very similar to what your favorite number 5 is doing, Deco. So far so good. I mean, it's such a chase in terms of, boy, you push the envelope, then you come back a little bit. Then you go a little bit further and you get too chunky, too fat, too this, too little, too that. But I think that's where the balance is. And I think that to me, the intrigue of drawing is the exploratory side. You go into a reverie area, for example, or an area you've never been to before, and you challenge yourself, and you'll find that out when you go to Chichester. You'll find yourself challenging yourself to do some really unique things. So again, I'm really happy for it. I'm glad you're doing that, Deco. That's going to be really cool. But I think this guy here, when I cranked this one out the other day, I thought, that's interesting. That kind of brings up that same that same basic overall body form, but it's got the sheerness where it needs it and the organics where it needs it. So there we go. Let's move along here. Plan view here. A little bit of a different variation, reversing the actual plan itself. I'm not so sure that one really captures it all, but it sort of has some essence to it in terms of being able to put it all together. Again, really looking at basic themes and studies here about what these forms could do. And I'm really not quite there yet in terms of where we want to settle in. There's a lot of yays and nays here, and I think some of the elements you picked up on, for example, again, Deco, is number 5 as a start. Maybe thin it up a little bit and stretch it a little bit more and give it this kind of character. Maybe this platform, this and this becomes integrated. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see how that begins to tell the story. But that's what it is. So to me, that's what the whole process of design is all about. It's telling a story from start to finish. What was the origin and what was the destination? How do you get there? And you get there through a lot of trial and error. Somebody makes mistakes. Sometimes they work. Sometimes they don't. It just is a very strange set of circumstances they go through. Based off the head of the yeah, that one's based off the head of the shark itself. That's exactly correct. So it was almost the same plan form where it actually changed it. Instead of going the other direction, Deco, it went right with it, so to spend it just a bit. I'm not so sure that's really what I'm after. I think the reverse is better. What do you think? I'll just hold on for a moment, get your input here. This came back to the same hammerhead system now as we see it, but there's just something else about this whole thing that I just didn't feel. I think the other one's newer. Not that new is the only thing you want to look at. I think it has a lot more substance to make a real impact in the interdiction process or attack system that they're going to go through. Any comment there, Deco, if you're still with me? Cool. Nope. Going back up. I agree with you on that one. It has a great shape, but the whole body feels more complete. I think you're right. I think that's absolutely true. Let me put this aside for a moment here. And we'll get a fresh sheet of paper and do a couple little. Let me put that aside here. So that was the walkthrough, for example, on some of these guys. Let's go back again to just a series of variations of themes here. Some digital systems. I work digitally sometimes just to kind of free things up a bit. I'm not really in love with it. I think the more mechanical stuff is, to me, far more intriguing. But there we are. Let's just kind of, let me shut this down for a second here. And let's go back to a blank sheet of paper and begin to put a story together here. So let's do this. If I'm working off this guy here, let's see what happens here. Let me wrap up something really quickly. If I take this into the plan view, the perspective, what I'm saying is this. Maybe it's a case of, let's get a drive line here. Drive line there, a drive line there. Let's get that body form in. I'll stretch it a little thinner. Now let's come off that drive line with that intake is. Real loose little sketch here. Let's get that real long canard. Let's go back here. Get that tail fin back in through and build that one off the base. Now let's get that reverse hood. Now let's get this guy. Yeah, what the occupant might look like in terms of where we go with this guy. Again, another brush. Not quite sure the surface of the that's basic character we're after. Just getting a lot more, a little leaner, kind of open this thing up a little bit more. And I mean, that's part of the whole process too. I'm not sure yet. I mean, it's a little bit of gossamer here. Maybe this comes out like that. It actually comes in and gives me more weight to this thing. It drops down. This can actually move as well. So a lot of articulation here, but that's fine. I don't know if we need that back there. This comes in, it goes back. It simplifies some of the forms, but that basic gesture is almost where we are here. This guy, side by side here. There it is. Whole body feels more complete. Yeah, I agree with you on that one. That's a great shape, but the whole body. All right, there we are. That's 5, and another variation theme here. And again, what I really think is interesting too. Let's go back to a different sheet here just for a second. Really interesting to me as well as this, where you come back to this thing. Maybe it's a case of getting that. To me, that whole gesture is important. It's an elevation again. It's a gesture that matters. So it's very needle-like. It comes back up and then drops off. It comes back in and does that. And there's a little bit of that shroud that does this. And that shroud comes back in. This is that engine nacelle. Okay, there we are. Whole theme sketch here. I love how smooth that main body. Yeah, me too. Just nice and easy. So I think that's going to kind of wrap it up a little bit. I'm really looking forward to seeing what we do with this form. And it's a little bit more vaporous yet. As I said, I just started putting this theme together over the last day or so, and so there's a lot of generation going on here in terms of where it started, and we're going back and develop the form. We go back and forth. Have you thought about incorporating the really swept back tail fin most hammerheads have, or do you think that? No, I think that'd be kind of neat. He's talking about really kind of pulling this tail section back a little bit. Do you think, Deco? I mean, going a little more severe. That's not a bad idea. So, have you thought about incorporating the really swept back tail fin most hammerheads have, or do you think that might be compromising the overall impression? No, I don't think it would compromise at all. I think it might be a big help. You're talking about, hopefully, you're referring to a comment like this guy right here, right? That very large dorsal fin, taking this guy right here, and giving it the same big overall shape. Yeah, I think that could work. I mean, this is what I love in interaction on the actual system itself. Let me just put these all together. Just a series of sketches here. We kind of get them all almost on the same page. Almost. Okay, we move up just a bit. I love about the interaction because it kind of gives you the impact of how you guys are looking at this thing and how I'm seeing it, and the interface is terrific. And any input to me about this whole biomimicry process, about this having this Mokarron really do a job and become a real interesting introduction or attack fighter, to me is really interesting. So the input is great. We can work it all in, see what happens. I'm gonna probably, what I'll do, Deco, just to make sure that we're doing, I'm listening very carefully here, take that same basic concept and try it, some of the sketches over the top of the same basic body form. So I don't know. So I think real quickly here, are you saying this, for example, if you got the basic body form here, there's the bone line, spine line here, that comes back in, has that same overall shoot to it here. It's really nice and smooth over the top of this thing. And what you're saying is this, I think, come back and really develop that form going back and being a lot more that kind of character. Or something like that. Is that what you're after? Is that what you're saying? Or is it more, is it rounder or like the actual form itself? I mean, I take that same variation, not so aquatic with it, but more aircraft. Maybe it's more of that. You might be right. That's interesting. I take that line through it in the nacelle. Well, look how simple that is. That could be kind of cool. Maybe a little bit of floater off the back of this thing, like a canard. That could be neat. And take this into that again. There it is. That's an interesting gesture right there. What do you think, Deco? Is that what you're after? That could be interesting. It's good. Excellent point. Super. I'll give you a moment to respond here. What do you think? Is that the basic concept? Well, we're at it here. Keep that bone line through here. This, I'm not quite sure. I want to keep that lower, really kind of, maybe it's just that. That's simple. We add another line here. Into intake. Come out of that with wing. Anyway, basically, yeah, there it is. I love how. So, is that the form you're after there, Dick? Are you talking about the more of the swept back tail system that the actual hammerhead has? Super. Well, if you don't respond, I think I'll just kind of take off and do that. But yeah, potentially, it seems a pretty interesting route to try. Maybe even having the tip of the fin dip back down slightly. Essentially, no, come back. In other words, coming back up on top and just drop back a bit like that. More of that drop. Very cool. That could work. That brings it back to almost, that's a great insight, because that brings it back to that very biomimicry piece we're looking at here, where actually, let's do this. Now that one shape, look how that begins at that form here. We can get these all on the same page here. Now that form here starts to take on the same character. By dropping it back, it gives you that same overall drop that the actual body form is doing. So that's going to be interesting to pursue. So good insight, Deco. Thank you so much. Let me just kind of do this. We'll wrap it up here today. Then we get these sketches. I'll organize these sketches later. I just want to take a moment, especially to you, Deco, for thank you for joining me today. What an absolute joy to have you on board. I'm really glad you've joined us. It's a brilliant intro stream. It's very Wednesdays. You will be, yeah, every Wednesday I try to be live at around 2:30 or so. A little bit late today, Deco, because of some office system I had to take care of here. But I'm streaming every Wednesday on in different subject matter. I'll go from transportation design to aircraft design to product design, interior space, and all over the map. Sometimes I just do some fine artwork as well, some watercolor stuff. So, but primarily I try to do something that's very Citron. Hey, how are you, Citron? Thanks very much. Where are you coming from? Outstanding. Thank you so much. Citron. Anyhow, thank you so much for joining here today. And but again, Deco, I'd love to have you the rest of them. Yeah, it's gonna be fun. We're gonna take this the next maybe week or two. Phase 1 to get the theme down, which is today. Phase 2, refine a little bit more in the show on Saturday with the Star Citizen Group at Equinox, and begin to develop that shape a little. It might be a little bit more of a duration, but in the end run, we're gonna do some really cool final illustration pieces. And while you're at it here, Deco, Citron. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. By the way, where are you from, Citron? Interesting. Thank you for joining us here today. That's great. What I'd like to propose to you, Deco, if you have a moment, take a look at my website, drcontrast.com. There's a whole series of lesson plans on there, from basic drawing skills and perspective, things of that nature, up into sketch rendering, volumetrics. It's a 9-lesson program, very affordable. See what you think of that. Let me know what you think in terms of an email. If you have any questions about drawing at all, please feel free to contact me at my website. My email address at jim@drcontrast.com. It's all there. I'm very interested. So again, information is on my website. The website itself is drcontrast.com. And again, anything I can do to help you, Deco, from a drawing point of view, whether it's perspective or basic shading or whatever. Thank you very much. First time chat. Thank you so much. From Turkey. Oh my goodness. Unbelievable. Wales and Turkey. Thank you very much for joining me. And thank you for your very kind comment about impressed by your art. I'm impressed that you took the time to watch. That's fantastic. I'll try some biomimicry in my own time while I wait for part 2. I'll be sure to have a look at ask questions if you have any. Thank you. Oh, that's great. Thank you for today as well, Deco and Citron. Thank you so much from Turkey. That's outstanding. I will join you next Wednesday, and please again, now following. Thank you so much. That's fantastic. Thank you. I really enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed the program as much as I enjoyed having you on board. So Victoria, Deco, and Citron, thank you so much for joining me. Again, I can be reached. Look at my website, drcontrast.com. Any questions, please send me a note, email to jim@drcontrast.com. Happy to help you in any way I can, but I always end my stream by making this comment because it comes right from the bottom of my heart. Never forget to dare to be great. Never forget to remember to dare to be great, because you are. Thanks for taking the time. Deca, we'll see you next Wednesday. And please tell your friends about the program. I'd love to have more people join me from Wales. Fantastic. See you next week. Again, thanks so much. Wednesday, 2:30. And if I have any conflicts and so forth, I'll put out a note on my Discord channel, and you can get that squared away. And I'm also going to look at, maybe I need your help here too. Last comment. Maybe what I will do in the next weeks to come, because of the volume coming up here, maybe go twice a week, Tuesday, Thursdays, or something of that nature. Help me out here, folks. And once again, so grateful for the time you spent. All of you, take great care of yourself. I look forward to seeing you next Wednesday. And once again, dare to be great, because you are. Thank you very much. Have a good one.